Have you ever wondered why there aren't many Easter-themed horror films? There are countless for Halloween and Christmas. Valentine's and St. Patrick's Day have less, but you can probably name one or two hits. Nail-biting Easter flicks, on the other hand, tend to be low budget and little known. This could be because Easter is a time of hope. It's when our Lord rose again. Winter finally gives way to spring, and barren land blooms once more. It was the wrong time for Elsie to take her own life. Elsie was my best friend. We were nerds, dorks, freaks, whatever you call those that don't fit the mold. I had acne and untamable hair. Elsie had pale skin and glasses. We worked hard and cared about our grades. That was a surefire way to join the losers club at our school. The jocks and beautiful popular girls were plentiful and a cliché of their own making, and cruel above all else. I was used to being teased and bullied. My dad was a cop, so all my life I had been targeted by kids of parents he'd put away. But for Elsie, high school was a culture shock. I tried to stick up for her, but I had no influence over her tormentors. I'd never say showing emotion is a negative trait, because we're all human, and societal pressure to be tough is why male suicide rates are so high. But Elsie's tears didn't help her cause. It made the bullies double down. She was pushed around and taunted every day. Items would be stolen or thrown at her, and it often escalated into unbearable verbal beatings or physical attacks. It became too much for her the night of the Easter Funfair. She was supposed to go with me and my parents, but she canceled last minute. I wasn't surprised because school had been horrific that day. Olympia Dawson and her coven forcibly stripped Elsie to her underwear and pushed her into the boys' locker room. I had bruises from trying to help and getting elbowed out of the way. I offered to miss the fair and stay home with Elsie, but she said she wanted to be alone. So, while I was playing fairground games and stuffing my face with candy floss, relishing the way it melted in my mouth, Elsie was constructing a hangman's noose. I wouldn't have left her alone if I knew her parents were out of town, but she had no reason to mention it. She was often trusted to be home by herself. She was a responsible girl, not the type to throw wild parties, and nobody would have gone to her parties anyway. I realized something was wrong when I got home and found an envelope for me on the doormat. There was no address, and it had been hand-delivered. I recognized Elsie's handwriting. I ripped it open, and my curiosity was replaced with dread. It was a suicide note. She said she couldn't take any more and asked me to have paramedics remove her body before her parents got home. She wrote she was sorry and begged me to make her family understand how awful life was at school. My dad and I raced to her house. We thought we might make it in time to save her because the fair had closed early after a strange and unforecasted fog hit town. It was so thick we could barely see 2 meters ahead. The fog soon left as suddenly as it arrived, but the stalls had already packed up for the night. Dad kicked the door open. "What the hell?" Elsie berated him, appearing from the kitchen with a bottle of nail varnish in hand. "You're okay," I cried, running to hug her. "What's this?" my dad demanded, holding up her letter. For a moment, I thought Olympia must have sent it as a cruel prank, but it was Elsie's handwriting. "Oh, that. It was just a joke. Chill, man." I sobbed tears of relief whilst my dad looked furious. "This is in no way funny," he scolded her. "There's an ambulance on the way. What if someone else has genuine need and help is delayed getting to them?" "Sorry," Elsie replied, but she didn't sound sincere. This wasn't like her. "I've arrested people for prank calling the emergency services," my dad continued. "You're lucky I'm not taking you in. Pull anything like this again, and I will." We left as the ambulance arrived. My dad told them it was a false alarm, and we went home. I was shocked and confused. I never expected Elsie to frighten me like that, much less find it amusing after seeing how upset I was. I thought I'd lost my best friend when I read that letter. And, as it turned out, I had. She turned up to school the next day wearing a short skirt and crop top with skyscraper heels. Her makeup was heavy, her hair styled in luscious waves. Her glasses were no more. I'm not saying there was anything wrong with her new look, it just wasn't Elsie. The pale skin she was mocked for looked more striking than ever, and instead of making ghost or corpse remarks, the boys stared with their mouths open. She walked straight past me. "Elsie," I called, jogging after her. "Oh, hey," she said, and continued to power ahead. I couldn't keep up, despite her ridiculous shoes. Elsie had never worn stilettos in her life, but here she was, strutting like a runway model. Olympia's friends abandoned her, instead flocking around Elsie. My best friend ignored my attempts to engage, shutting me down with one-word answers. She wasn't nasty, and she stopped others from harassing me, but she was lost to me nonetheless. I noticed a few strange happenings that week. In cooking class, one of Elsie's new friends nudged her affectionately, but she lost her balance. When Elsie reached out to stop herself falling, her palm landed on the scalding hot stove. She didn't pull her arm away as you'd expect. When she finally lifted her hand, the skin was raw and blistering. Her friends gasped and yelped, but she didn't seem to be in pain. The fire alarm went off during gym class when we were in the pool. The teacher wouldn't let us collect our towels. We were freezing, standing outside with dripping hair and wearing nothing but wet swimsuits. All the girls were shivering and clearly in extreme discomfort, except for Elsie. She stood up straight. She wasn't trembling, crying, or hugging herself. Her pale skin wasn't goose-pimpled. In another lesson, the emotional support dog got projectile diarrhea, but Elsie was unbothered by the stench. I also noticed she never ate lunch. Things got weirder in the months after Easter break. Whispers circulated the halls about the boys Elsie dated. Apparently Bradley Thompson went out with her the night before he went missing. As summer lost its war with autumn, reports of missing children hit the front pages more and more frequently. Playgrounds were abandoned, the streets empty after dark. At school, Elsie covered more of her skin with every passing week. Her vibrant complexion turned gray, her eyes became bloodshot, and her hair went limp. Fingernails were missing. Those that gravitated toward her in spring now parted like the Red Sea when they saw her in the corridors. One of her teeth fell out in science. Her attendance dwindled as autumn surrendered to winter, and eventually she didn't turn up at all. I dropped by her house a few times, but her parents said she'd gone to boarding school. They seemed defeated whenever I saw them around town, like they'd lost control in ways they never anticipated. The rest of the world forgot about Elsie, until new leaves appeared on stark trees. Buds prepared to bloom, harsh frost turned to light morning dew, and Elsie strutted the corridors once more, just like the morning after she sent me that letter, all flowing curls and beautiful, ethereal skin.